Today, what we're going to talk about is a pretty important subject. It's kind of a newer thing that's hitting our radar. Well, kind of an older thing and a newer thing. We're going to talk about some Google profile risks and suspensions, specifically with some recent changes with Google. Even if your account's not suspended, I urge you to check this out because what we're seeing is a high number of Google profiles, Google business profiles, that are getting suspended for seemingly innocent reasons. And we want to talk about the Google business profile stuff and the policies surrounding that and kind of dive in there. So we're going to talk about three main things in today's video. Number one, we're going to talk about why Google is cracking down and suspending more and more Google business profiles and what that looks like, why they're doing it. And we're going to talk about some proactive steps that you can take to prevent your profiles from being suspended in the first place. And this is really where, even if your account is not suspended, you should pay attention here because it could be. And then three, we're going to talk about how to navigate the appeal process and get unsuspended quickly if by chance you get suspended. So first thing I want to talk about is there is a growing trend for Google cracking down on policies. We've started to see it earlier this year, and it's just continuing to ramp up month after month. In fact, a couple weeks ago, we went live on a very similar topic where we talked about Google reviews and them getting removed from your profile. And this is kind of in the same vein. Essentially, what's happening is this. There have been, for the last few years, there have been a enormous boost in fake profiles being created, and for a lot of different reasons. A common reason is like you might have some people with some internet skills that will create a bunch of fake profiles. They'll rank them, and then they'll demote real businesses, and then they'll take those fake profiles and they'll rent them out to real businesses. Well, Google doesn't want that. They only want real businesses on the profile. And so that's a model called rank to rent. And it's just one example. There's a bunch more reasons why people might create fake profiles. There's been a huge rash of it, right? And if you guys remember, like if you've had a business for a while, now, unless you're brand new, you probably remember creating a Google business profile. And when you went to go validate your address, what would they do? They'd send you a postcard, right? So you'd sign up a Google business profile, put in your address, name, address, phone number, all that stuff. And for them to verify your business, they would just send you a postcard to the address. And it would be there within a couple of days, so like a week, right? It'd be a postcard with Google, flip it over, and on the back, it would say, go to this address, web address, google.com/something, and it would have a PIN number. And that PIN number would be specific to you, get printed out just for you, almost like a two-factor authentication with your phone or text, except it was happening via mail. But people, spammers, found a way to crack that. And what they would do is they would create a fake account. They would find an address, just any random residential address, and they would hire people to go steal mail from mailboxes. And it was working like wildly well. I mean, what would you notice if a Google postcard was missing out of your mailbox? You never created one anyways. So you're like John Smith like at 123 Anywhere Street, and someone steals a postcard you never expected in the first place. You wouldn't even raise suspicion. You never expected it to be there. So it's not like you had your postcard missing. They created the business at your house, unknowing to you. Postcards show up. They'd have someone go by and check the mail, steal it out. If for whatever reason they missed it and you captured your mail, they would click a button and resend a new one, which was part of Google's policy to allow. So we just keep trying until they got it. So Google realized that this postcard method was just not good enough. It wasn't good enough at all. So what they did, and this has been increasing over the course of this year, is they've changed a bunch of policies. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of those policy changes. They've also cracked down and holding more people accountable to the policies that were already there 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 2 years ago. There's policies there that were just kind of loosey-goosey and they just didn't care much about, and they were allowing things to go through. But now, because Google is really cracking down on these spam profile accounts, all the real businesses are going to get kind of caught in the crossfire. We have to play by their game to keep on it. So that's the reason why this whole thing comes because of scammers and spammers. And Google had to raise the bar on trying to crack down for that. The net benefit is that the customers, at the end of the day, after all the dust settles, they're going to have a system that allows for much more accurate, complete information. What it means for us as business owners, though, is we have to work a lot harder to get these profiles accurate so that we don't get suspended and inadvertently caught in this loop of cracking down on fake profiles and do something that might make Google think that we are fake. And there's very, very simple things that you can accidentally do to make Google think you're fake, and they'll suspend you for it. The biggest one that we're seeing today, right now, has to do with addresses. So we've seen several people change their addresses. Not us, because we do know the right way to do it, but we've had several people change their address, and the moment they do it, it gets suspended. Okay. So the big thing that happens here when changing addresses, address changes are allowed, right? They are completely allowed. But when you do it, you got to make sure that everything is by the policy. And there's some policies here that not everyone understands. And people that sometimes people think they understand and they just don't. I'm going to go over a couple real basic ones. We'll go into a little bit more detail later, but I'm going to couple just for the purpose of this example. Home addresses are not allowed. And that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers here. And a lot of people will disagree with me on this. It says verbatim that they are not allowed. There is no clarity or lack thereof around that subject. You are not allowed to use a home address on a Google business profile. Now, there's hundreds of thousands, maybe not millions of people that are doing it. But that's one of the things that gets cracked down. So we've seen cases where someone lives at home address A, whatever that is, and they move to home address B. And for whatever reason, they have not been caught with the original home address, but they changed to another address. And then they change, and now they got to go through this thing, and then Google realizes that's a home address, and boom, it messes them up. So you might be getting away with it right now. But if Google reviews your account and you are using a home address, it will be suspended. There is no question about it. We've seen it a dozen times just in the last 30 days. And we're seeing it more. The rate of this is more and more. There's also a lot of people, other people doing videos and blogs on this subject. This is definitely one of these policies that's been there for a long time. Everyone's been getting away with it, but Google is cracking down on it. So changing addresses, if you have an actual business address, their definition means that a customer should be able to go there. That means that a PO box or a storage unit doesn't qualify. A shared workspace, if you don't have a private office, doesn't qualify. A shared workspace, if you do have a sign on a door somewhere, that does work. If you have a shared office where there's like maybe 5-10 businesses in one door, but you have your own sub door, that does work. What doesn't work is like a home or storage unit or UPS store or PO box. None of those work at all. And they go completely against their policies. And so we've seen some cases where people are changing addresses and it doesn't work. There's even another thing that can happen that's similar. Maybe you have a home address and you're changing your business name. We've seen a couple of these cases where someone just tries to change their business name from like ABC Co to like AB Co, just a small, simple name change. But when they change that one thing, Google's now reviewing the entire profile. And as such, the address, if it's incorrect, can get you suspended. And so we've seen a bunch of cases like that too, where all of a sudden something that like we're not even changing the address, we're not even talking about the address, but that ultimately becomes the reason why we're getting suspended. So let's talk about a couple of the main reasons why you'd get suspended and how to react to that. So misleading or inaccurate information, inaccurate being the opportune word here. Most of us, if you're here, you're not misleading. You're not a spammer, but you could have inaccurate information. Multiple listings. This happens often. Like you may have hired someone to create a profile, or maybe your wife did and you got divorced. Maybe an employee did and they got fired. Right. And now all of a sudden there's this profile with your business. It's there, it's active, but you don't own it. And because you can't get back ownership, you think that creating a new profile is the response. You create another profile and all of a sudden both of them get suspended. That happens, and it happens every day. That is not the right move. Spammy behavior, right? Keyword stuffing, over optimizing, fake reviews, anything that is going against trust. If it's not legitimate and trustworthy, truthful, not going to work. There's also an ineligible business reason why you could get denied. Ineligible business means that for example, e-commerce stores are not allowed to be on Google Business Profile. You could have an e-commerce component to a physical store, right? Like you could be a massage therapist and have an actual address, and you could sell massage oils, and maybe there's an e-commerce store that you allow your customers to buy online. That can happen. But if you're just like an online only t-shirt shop, not happening. And there's some other temporary businesses like Everyone's seen those like Halloween stores that pop up for 1 month and then disappear. That's a temporary business. It doesn't qualify. And so there's a few other things: suspicious activity, prohibited content, illegal activities. Like most of these are pretty like big common sense, right? Like, and everyone here is a contractor, mostly paint contractors, but you're a contractor of some kind. You're doing a legitimate business, a legitimate service, right? So what do we do proactively to prevent our profiles from being suspended? So out of all of those reasons, the two biggest that I see are as followed. One, correctly um, labeling a service area business. So when you create a Google business profile, you have a choice. Do I have an address like a 123 Anywhere Street, Anywhere Town, USA? Or do I just say that I service the greater Atlanta, Georgia area, right? And you have a choice to make. They give you that choice when you create the profile. You can also change after you've created the profile. You can go from service area to a map pen, from a map pen to a service area. You can go both directions. It's okay to change, but you have to do it within their policy, right? And so we already talked about a moment ago when I was giving some examples. You are not allowed to use a home address. You are not allowed to use a PO box, a UPS box. You aren't allowed to use a co-work space if you only have access to the co-work shared areas, only if you have like a private office or shared office of some kind. You need to actually have a sign on a door somewhere that is visitable by customers. That cannot be your home. It can't be your garage. It's definitely not going to be like the PO box. You can't have a client meeting in the middle of a PO box library or a PO box lobby, I should say. So because of that, that's just not allowed. If that is you, if you do not have a real visitable address, then you are by definition a service area business. And the number one reason that we see suspended accounts happen is from using the wrong type of address and trying to get away with it. And again, for years, there's probably tons of people watching this right now, like, my account's got my home address, is working just fine. Cool. That's great for now. At some point, you are going to get suspended if you don't change it. And I would recommend that everyone that does not have a legitimate business with an actual map pin change your profile to service area business. There's some step-by-step ways to change that. All right. Basically, it means just in the address field, you put the city, but you don't put like a street address. And then there's another section for additional service areas, which you can put the towns surrounding your main area. So I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. I might put Jacksonville, Florida as my service area. And then I might put Jack's Beaches, Southside, St. Augustine, other surrounding cities as my extended service area. Okay. That is absolutely the number one. So proactively make sure that's right. All right. No shared spaces, no PO boxes, no home addresses. If those are the case, remove the address, turn it into a service area business, and just deal with it. Yes, an actual address profile ranks better. If you don't have one, sorry, you're going to get outbeat a little bit, but it's better than getting your profile like completely taken down. Would you rather have maybe a slight demotion in rankings, maybe a few less leads a month, or would you rather have the profile gone? I'd rather have it there and just a little bit less results, right? Now, there are other things you can do to optimize that profile to hopefully beat out the other people with map pins. And maybe one day as you're scaling your company, you will legitimately have a spot. And for those of you that are kind of on the cusp, you're too small for like a big retail space or storage or warehouse or shop or whatever it is you need for your business to kind of get that next step, but you also don't want to operate out of your garage. The in the middle areas spend typically between like $100 to $300 a month and get a shared co-work space. There are people that like, you have an office. There's big companies that do it and there's private companies that do it where your address might be 123 Anywhere Street, like unit 5. And like that, you go in and you have a number 5 on your door. Like that's the address for the building. But then you have like, a door like 201 or whatever the number is. And that indicates your door inside of that. And that also separates the address. So someone else might be registered at 123 Anywhere Street, Unit 1. You're 123 Anywhere Street, Unit 5. And that's different. And so multiple map pins can actually be at the same spot. So shared spaces are that in the middle ground. You can typically get them in most cities for $100 to $300 a month. It varies a lot. That's not a promise, but that's the step. If you really, really want a map pin, that's the price of admission. That's the minimum requirement to get an actual address for a map pin. All right. Now, The next thing that is we're seeing getting people spammed, and this one is interesting because the address thing, most people don't realize that the home address doesn't work. So that's just lack of knowledge, right? The next one is accidental, almost entirely accidental. And this boils down to accurate information. So Google defines accurate information, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not reading off their actual page, but they basically say their accurate information needs to reflect the accurate stuff that you can find everywhere else. So, for example, if your account does get suspended and you have to prove that you're legitimate and you give some, government paperwork showing that you're a business and you're real, and it has address A, but your profile has a different address, that's a problem. That's not accurate information. Right now, you have multiple addresses. So, what happens when most businesses, almost every one of my clients and most businesses I deal with, they have like multiple addresses in play. They have like one address that's on their IRS thing, another for their Sunbiz, another for this, another for that, one for their Google. Dude, you need a single solitary spot. Single. Not two, not three, not four, not five. Because if Google sees multiple addresses that you're representing, that looks like inaccurate information and it looks like potential misrepresentation, intentional. So whether it's accidental or intentional is irrelevant. You need a single address and it needs to be on everything. It needs to be on like your EIN paperwork, your insurance paperwork, your county or city permits, or in license, whatever license requirements you have. It's also on your website. It's also your Google business. It's also your mail. Like it needs to be the address. This is probably also another argument to maybe have a co-work space or something similar. Um, but that is what it is, right? Now, if you don't have that, that's okay. That's why you do a service area. If your actual legal business address is your home or a PO box, then your profile just needs to be a service area, and that's perfectly fine. But you can't have address 1 on Google Business Profile and address 2 on your like insurance certificate. Like you can't do that. It needs to be the same. And that one address needs to be a correct business address, not a PO box or home and all that stuff. So one of the things that's happened, we just had a client recently that had just some got into dispute, and now we're in this whole thing, and the paperwork here is different. It's like 123 Anywhere Street Unit 1. The next thing says 123 Anywhere Street Unit 20, and it's like it's just not the same. That it's not exact and it's not accurate. It's a really big deal. Google wants to trust you. And the only way to really be trustworthy is to show that you are complete and accurate with everything you do everywhere. If you have different email addresses or different web addresses on profiles, let's say you have a Yelp account, Google sees all the other directories out there too, right? So another way to be inaccurate is maybe you have one phone number on your Google Business profile and your Yellow Pages or Yelp account has a different phone number, a different address, a different thing. That's also going to classify as a potential flag for accurate information. So when we say accurate everywhere, we mean everywhere. Your paperwork, all your legal stuff should have this one address. Your Google business should have this address. If your Facebook business page has your address, it should be the same address. If your Yelp or Better Business Bureau or any other things have that same address, it should be the same address. I know I'm driving that really home here and I'm repeating myself a bunch, but it is that important. And so many people forget about this. Like, oh, I created that Yelp page like 5 years ago and forgot about it. I don't care that you forgot about it. If you change your address on Google Business, you need to change it there too, because they're going to look at those other places. And if they see those different addresses, it's going to flag it. And now we're going to have this suspended account that we don't want to have to deal with. So, number one reason here, or number one thing to be proactive, is to make sure you have the right type of address. If you do not have an actual work address, change your profile to service area business. The number two thing is to make sure that you are accurate. You have the proper categories, you got the phone number, the website, email, all the stuff, all the basic information about your company. I don't care about the photos or the descriptions, that can vary a little bit, but all the basic information, the contact information, better be exactly the same on every profile. All right. Now, let's talk about the next thing to be proactive. This we'll call it number 3, is going to be reviews. So this is another thing that can get us suspended. This is probably the third reason. Those first two, address and accurate information, are definitely the top two. This is number 3. Doesn't happen as much. More often than not, it just means for the removal of a review, but it can, in certain cases, mean for the suspension of a profile. So let's talk about it. This is the reviews. So when we gather and share reviews, we need to try to do so in person where we can, at the time of the job when we can. What we don't want to see when gathering reviews is reviews coming outside of your service area and a bunch of weird timings. We also don't want to see like a giant flood of like 30 reviews in a week, but you haven't had any for 6 months. So we want to be consistent with the reviews. At the end of the job is when the right time to ask is, preferably in person. So you're getting it at their property in your local area. We saw a suspension once where someone left a review, and all that happened is they had went on vacation and left a review from like 2 states away. That can actually trigger this. That's weird, but it can happen. And so what Google is realizing is like if you're a paint business serving like let's say the Atlanta area and someone reviews you from Miami, they probably are not your actual customer, right? And that may look like a purchase review, but it could be your customer in Atlanta visiting family in Miami, which is why you need to do it at the end of the job, period. At the end of the job is when you need to do it, right then, right there, hopefully in person. Make this part of your process, get reviews. Make sure all the reviews are quality and mention something about your business. If you end up with like 2 or 3 reviews that like have no text or maybe just say great job or something kind of just really not detailed, that's not great. We need them to actually say a couple sentences about what it was like to work with you. It doesn't have to be a novel. Just say, hey, Jeff over at ABC Painting was wonderful to work with. I highly recommend hiring him. That's great. Cool. Something like that, right? Then you need to reply to that review. And just like their reviews need to be thought out and not repetitive and not blank, your reply must be unique. One of the common things that I see in dealing with reviews that clients do, and some other people that are not my clients that I see companies do, is they'll just have like 1 or 2 responses and they just copy and paste it to everybody. Do not be that guy or girl. Just uniquely reply to it. If someone takes a few minutes out of their day to send you a Google review and give you their time and effort, you owe it to them to spend a couple moments of your life replying in a thoughtful way. Just do that, and all the reviews that coming in are unique, all the replies are unique, and you're good to go. That's all it takes. So that's the 3 proactive steps, right? Correct type of address, accurate information, regular updates, and then also reviews. Accurate reviews from the client side, accurate replies from you. Let's talk about number 3. Topic number 3 for the day is how to navigate the appeals process and get it unsuspended. So let's talk about 2 quick things. Number 1 is if your account gets suspended, really, really important note is to not overreact. It sucks. It might be one of your main sources of leads, and all of a sudden it gets suspended. I know it sucks, but overreacting, emotionally reacting, or reacting too quickly, like just going like, "Oh my gosh," and submit, it is probably going to create a worse scenario than just allow yourself to calm down a little bit. Okay, it's cool. It's a problem. We can deal with it. And Micah and his team gave me a solution to deal with it, right? So if you stick around to the end of this, we're going to send you this document and it'll actually outline exactly what to do and all the links and everything. So the first thing is if it gets suspended, it's going to be in a suspended status. You'll get an email. It'll happen at any time, day or night. You'll get an email and says your business is now suspended. All right. And in that email, it will have a link. And in your profile online, you'll have the ability to create a reinstatement request. All right. Before you do this, though, this is really, really important. This is where most people get in trouble. Is that reinstatement request is an initial request to have Google review it. So most of the time, the suspensions that happen, almost all of them, they happen by software tools. And so we're talking about all these crackdowns. It's not some human sitting and just going delete, 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 suspend, suspend, suspend. It's software. They're writing rules to look for behaviors, and those things are triggering software to go, oh, that looks fake. Let's suspend it. And then you, as a human, have to request a reinstatement. It's a reinstatement request from the suspension. And when you do, a human at Google will look at it. But here's what's important. And here's the steps that you need to do. Step number 1, you need to identify the reason for suspension. So when they suspend it, they will tell you the category of the reason for your suspension. but they will not tell you the exact reason. For example, the address stuff that we talked about, they won't say you put in the wrong address and we saw a different address on Yellow Pages and that's why you submitted. They will not tell you that. What they will tell you is that the category is inaccurate information, and it's up to you to figure out what is in there, right? They will never, ever, ever tell you. There is no way for you to ever, ever, ever find out the exact explicit reason. Not going to happen. Don't ask me, don't ask them. It will not happen. And basically, the reason for that goes back to spammers. If you were a spammer and I got suspended because maybe I had a Yellow Pages address that was slightly different and I didn't realize it, and they caught it and suspended my profile. If they tell me what to fix, it makes it real easy for me to go fix it and keep my illegitimate business running, right? That's the whole thing. They are not going to tell you. Even if it's just an honest mistake, they're not going to tell you. They will only tell you the category. And this is the reason why you need to take a beat and take a moment, identify that reason, do some investigation, ask around. You can ask us for help if you get to that point. Ask here in the group, and someone will chime in. There's other companies that you can pay to help you identify that reason, but it has to be human looking at it. That's not Google. And you're essentially, even though we can most of the time figure it out, we are guessing because Google's not going to tell us. But you want to figure out what that reason is. So you look at the category for the suspension, and then there'll be a button to click on the policy. It'll open up Google Policy, and you'll have a couple paragraphs and maybe some bullets telling you potential reasons inside of that category. Go back and take a look at your profile or profiles and anything else that you've submitted or done and see if any of those would have triggered it. It normally sticks out, normally, right? Like, I just changed my address and it's a home address. Okay, it's not allowed. The policy says so. That's the reason. Let's fix that and we're good. I updated the address and one of my addresses says I'm unit 1, the other address says I'm unit 5. Okay, that's the address, but that's about accurate information. That's the problem. Let's fix the accuracy and we can move forward, right? So step 1, identify the reason for suspension. That's really, really critical. Take a minute, figure it out, and be sure of what you're going to do. Step number 2, gather supporting documents. So if you have a legitimate address, that's going to be like utility bills, maybe your IRS tax address is there, your local insurance. Again, remember we talked about all the paperwork being at that same address. What if you have like this address here, but like none of your official mail goes to that address, everything goes somewhere else? How are you going to prove that? Right? You can't. So that's why everything really should be at one address. So when they ask for supporting documents, it's like, oh, okay, great. I got like 10 right here. I got some bills. I got some insurance stuff. I got a notice from my CPA. I got all this stuff proving that this is where I work. Cool. Let's grab that information, photocopy some of it, and when you get that ready for that reinstatement request, you can attach that documents. So identify is number 1, gather supporting documents is number 2, and then step 3 is going to be to correct any issues on your Google Business profile. So it'll still let you go in and edit at this point, right? You won't be completely blocked out. You'll be able to normally you'll be able to change some stuff. So if you figure out the address is a problem, fix the address, and then you're going to file from there, right? So you'll click the reinstatement request, step 4, after you've identified, after you've gathered all supported documents, and after you've corrected any issues that you can. The issue may be directly on Google Business Profile, maybe it's on Yellow Pages, maybe it's somewhere else. Whatever it is, depending on what you identify, fix that issue. Then we file that appeal, or that, I'm sorry, not appeal, the reinstatement request, and it's going to go to Google and they're going to review it. Now, the reinstatement request is the first thing that you can do if you get suspended. A lot of times, and this is unfortunate and it makes it more complicated, it's definitely difficult, but a lot of times when you do that reinstatement request, the person that looks at it is like a level 1 support rep. And sometimes they don't look at it carefully. You can attach all the right stuff, all the supporting documents in the text body of your correct issue. Say, hey, I noticed my address is wrong. I saw that I violated this policy. I've corrected the issue. Here's supporting documents, blah, 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 blah. And you submit that. Sometimes they just don't read it. They just like real quick and they just don't read and they just keep it suspended, right? So it's really important that the supporting documents are very, very accurate, very clearly support your case. The written thing in the written block that you put in the reinstatement request is as completely detailed as you can make it. But there are humans on the other end of this, and sometimes they're not gonna read it. That you can have the best case in the world and they'll just click deny and they'll deny your reinstatement request. If that happens, there is a second process called the appeal process. So basically, it's like I have a live account or it's suspended. If it's suspended, I get a reinstatement request, but only one reinstatement request. If they review that reinstatement request and they don't agree with it, they're going to say, nope, this is permanently closed. It says permanently, but there is still another process, a second process called the appeal process. The appeal process can actually be done a couple times, but if you're already here, you really, really need to pay attention. So, most people get themselves in trouble because they just don't gather enough supporting evidence, supporting documents. They don't fix the issue. They don't really write detailed information in their reinstatement request, and they just deny it. They put like 2 sentences, maybe no attachments. But like, my address is correct. It's fine. It's good. Boom. Reinstate me. I'm a legitimate business. That's not enough. You need to prove without a reasonable doubt that you are a legitimate business and do all that stuff in the reinstatement request. But if it does get to that point, you have the appeal process. The steps are kind of similar here. Step 1 for the appeal process would be review the denial reason. When they deny you, they have to say why. This denial reason will give you a little bit more, but not all the way, a little bit more clarity on what you're getting denied for. So maybe you were off base on the reinstatement and now you have a little bit more information to go on. Take that information, again, continue to fix everything. At this point, you're going to be locked out of your account. There is no fixing Google Business Profile at this point. You're done there because your profile is going to be completely locked. But you can gather additional supporting documents, write even more detailed statement of why this should be reinstated, and you need to provide very, very valid arguments. Do not get emotional here. You need to say, I think you think this. This is what's actually happening. Here's the document to support that. Right? Normally at this point, they'll say something, the reason will be like untrustworthy stuff, or we don't think you're a real business or something. Whatever it is, just be calm, be tactful, be professional, and provide everything you can, and then fill out the support appeal, right? Now, note, do not fill out the reinstatement or the appeal until you have I would actually suggest having a Word doc or Google Doc or something. Actually write everything out on a document. Have all of your supporting PDFs or images ready to go in a folder. And here's why. Once you start the reinstatement request or the appeal request, it's a Google form. Once you start it, within 30 minutes, even if you're not finished, that form will automatically submit. You can actually leave the page and it will still submit in its incomplete state. So do not even start it until you have everything written for you. You can go to the link, just don't start filling out fields, right? Get everything together, gather support documents before you fill out the form. Very, very, very critical. Okay. Now, when you do this, if you have to do this, we have, quite a few success stories. Very, very rarely, if you do this in a very detailed reason, will Google not side with you. They want legitimate businesses on there. And they also realize that Google Business Profile is linked with LSAs. They want your money there too. So they are in the business of having this profile there. They're not working against you. Remember that. They're working against spam. So do this, and you're as long as you are detailed, tactful, professional, remove emotion, and just actually be accurate and truthful, chances are you're going to be fine. Now, with that being said, guys, just, the summary here, real quick summary, is just keep your profile accurate information, up to date, super, super detailed, accurate everywhere. Make sure you have the best address that you can, a legitimate business address, whatever that means to you. Accurate reviews, don't fake them, reply to them uniquely, create updates. If something changes in your business, like a phone number, address, that's fine to change it. Just make sure you change it everywhere, right? So basically the point here is to keep honest, accurate, truthful information everywhere in your business, and you're going to be just fine, right? If you get flagged, if you get suspended from some accidental thing, follow these policies. It'll help you get back on your feet and you'll be good to go. And otherwise, guys, have a great day. I appreciate you joining me. I know this was a bit long. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. If you're looking for help growing your contracting business, I invite you to join my free community. In there, we go live with amazing trainings, share resources and downloads, plus you get free help from me and from peers. That link is down below to join, and we'll see you in the next video.